The Federalists. I'm Owiana Ward.
I'm Sophia.
And I'm Daphne.
So how did the Federalists form? Firstly, the Albany Congress of 1754, planned by Ben Franklin, it started a trend for cooperation within the states in order to create shared policies and ideas. Secondly, in 1774, 12 out of the 13 colonies came together at the Continental Congress to discuss how they could gain further independence from the British. It served as the governing body of the American colonies during the early stages of the Revolutionary War. In 1775, the Revolutionary War starts, and the 13 colonies were still operating under the Continental Congress. And in 1776, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence, which officially declared the 13 colonies independence from Great Britain. However, after the ending of the Revolution and the colonies' victory, the higher governing role that was once filled by the British now fell onto the Continental Congress. So, in 1774, the Continental Congress adopted the Articles of Confederation, which in short created a loose confederation of self-governing states and a weak central government, leaving most of the power with the state governments. So the Articles created a Congress, however, it lacked a judicial branch and an executive branch.
What were the Federalists and what did they want? A Federalist is a person who advocates or supports a system of government in which several states unite under a central authority. The Federalist Party ended with its last presidential candidate in 1816. Federalists wanted weaker state governments, which is replaced with a strong centralized government. They wanted this because they thought it was necessary if the states were going to band together to form a nation. They also wanted indirect elections of government officials and longer-term limits for office holders, which would allow senators to resist the desires of public opinion. They also favored representative rather than direct democracy. Alexander Hamilton. He was born on January 11, 1757, and died July 12, 1804. Hamilton was a very prominent Federalist. He fought in the Revolutionary War and was one of the founding fathers of the United States. He served as one of New York's delegates at the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia in 1787. Many of his ideas for the Constitution did not get used, and he disagreed with many aspects of the final draft, but nevertheless was a very active supporter of the Constitution. With John Jay and James Madison, he wrote the Federalist Papers defending the Constitution. He wrote 51 out of the 85 essays in the Federalist Papers. He was also the first Secretary of Treasury and established the Bank of the United States.
James Madison. He was born on March 16, 1751, and died on June 28, 1836. Madison supported a strong federal government, which led to his support of a national bank. From the years 1780 to 1783, Madison served as a delegate to the Continental Congress during the later stages of the American Revolution. In 1787, Madison drafted and promoted the United States Constitution during the Constitutional Convention. And during the writing of the Federalist Papers from 1787 to 1788, Madison wrote 29 out of the 85 total papers. In 1789, Madison helped pass the Judiciary Act, which established the federal court system and helped define the judicial branch. He campaigned for the ratification of the Constitution in his home state of Virginia, which led to its ratification. And then from 1789 to 1797, Madison was elected as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives during the first Congress, where in 1791, Madison is credited with drafting the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. These amendments protected individual rights and liberties and were added to the Constitution to address concerns about federal power.
John Jay. John Jay was born in New York, New York in 1745, and he passed away in Bedford, New York in 1829. In his early life, Jay became an established lawyer, holding numerous important political roles and contributing to several historically significant documents, including the Declaration of Independence. In 1784, Congress elected Jay Secretary for Foreign Affairs. During his time in this office, he found himself frustrated by the limitations on his power, which led him to feel a need for a strong centralized government in the U.S. He then fought for the ratification of the new federal constitution. In 1778, Jay collaborated with James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, writing 5 of the total 85 articles for the Federalist Papers. This defended the structure of the new government against anti-Federalists. In 1789, George Washington appointed Jay the first Chief Justice of the United States. Jay's Chisholm versus Georgia case was extremely significant because it affirmed that the states were under the control of the federal government. However, due to negative reaction, the 11th Amendment was adopted, which denied the federal court authority in the suits of citizens against the state. The Jay Treaty of 1794 caused much chaos and protests against John Jay. Jeffersonian Republicans viewed the treaty as a sellout from pro-British Federalists. This squashed his chance at presidency. Elected by New York Federalists, Jay became the governor of New York from 1795 to 1801, declining John Adams' offer to continue. This painting shows George Washington at the Constitutional Convention of 1787, where he signed the U.S. Constitution. How were Federalist ideas represented in the Constitution? Federalists fought for the ratification of the U.S. Constitution, feeling it necessary to protect the liberty and independence of the United States. To ensure the adoption of the Constitution, James Madison supports the Bill of Rights. In 1788, after conflict between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists and the publishing of the Federalist Papers, the U.S. Constitution is ratified, which created a strong national government. The Constitution divided power between the national government and the states. 2 main points of Federalist representation in the Constitution include the separation of powers through a system of checks and balances, which forces each branch of government to share their power. Additionally, the development of the U.S. Senate, originally proposed by James Madison, assigning 2 senators for each state, contributes to a strong centralized government while still protecting individual liberties and rights. In 1913, the 17th Amendment allowed state legislators to choose senators rather than popular vote, as previously decided in the Constitution.